Like if I'm being like super straight up, it's like if you could change the offer and the ad account could turn around overnight, and you could push up more scale because now consumers are realizing, oh, this is easier to understand, or it's easier to unlock, or whatever that might be.
There are exceptions to this, but most of the time they're a flash in the pan, and they're not the people that are out there consistently doing the work. And the other thing is, all of these people that we all know that are well known in our industry, including us, there are like multiple people under them that are also, or with them, that are also doing the work and that are really smart and potentially smarter than them and or than us.
I think for a while, people would be shocked to hear that you're spending 40%, upwards of 40%, more in some cases, of your revenue on marketing. I think people are really shocked by that. And I think that's just like somewhat the reality, unless you have a really unique, you have strong LTV, you have some kind of like organic moat. Like there's a lot of things that could factor into that, but it's kind of the barrier to entry at this point.
You can still have other playbooks that can work. I mean, these guys do crazy affiliate stuff. They do a ton of stuff with TikTok Shop, driving traffic over to Amazon. I mean, there's definitely no one size fits all playbook that everyone has to follow. And if someone says like, this is how you grow a brand, like just know there's going to be a bunch of other ways that you probably can go about it. I also think like you also just have to tap into what you're good at.
And now, let's take a listen to the Scalability School podcast.
First of all, big celebration, huge confetti emoji, like we're texting each other on an iPhone. Congratulations to my co-hosts. Good job. Most people, it's just like a restaurant. Like you don't make it past the first 6 months or whatever. Like, look at this. Most podcasts fail after the third episode, right?
We're here. Not us. Not us.
Hanging on. We've continued to receive tens of emails from people about how great this podcast is. So everybody, actually, people like that. They said I've had 3 people comment this week tell me that they love how informal it is. So it's not like too structured. And we're like, that's just because we are bad at planning and we don't.
All right. Hold on. I'm doing a decent job here.
Of course. But anyway, guys, guys and gals and everything in between, we're glad you're here. Thanks for being here. We're excited to talk through questions that we got on our, mostly Zach's Twitter profile in response to his tweet, X, talking about everything from, hey, we want to answer your questions. People ask us for this. And so it's a whole bunch of stuff we're going to go through today. A potpourri, if you will, a potpourri of questions, a lot of different things. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in.
Hey, what's up? This is Andrew from Scalability School, and we really believe in Wayflyer. And the episode is actually brought to you by Wayflyer today. If you've ever run a brand or you work with brands, the challenge isn't getting sales, right? It's managing cash flow so you can actually grow. There's things like inventory invoices that come due. Ad spend ramps up before big sales periods, and suddenly you're caught between waiting on revenue and needing money today. And that's what Wayflyer helps with, right? They help D2C founders get fast access to capital, usually within 48 to 72 hours. And the repayment terms are designed around how e-commerce actually works. Think flexible monthly caps, fixed repayment options, and even products built specifically for brands selling on Shopify and Amazon. What makes them different is they actually understand the space. They know the ups and downs of inventory cycles, the importance of timing ad spend, and how seasonal swings can make or break a year. Working with Wayflyer feels less like borrowing from a bank and more like having a partner who's invested in your growth. So whether you're looking to cover inventory, smooth out cash flow, or give your marketing budget the fuel it needs before a big season, check them out at wayflyer.com/scalability.
First question, I think, Zach, I've heard people ask you this, and I think it's worth bringing up right away, which is when should an agency try to be a D2C brand? Or like, when should people make that transition? Because that's something that I hear about literally all the time. I talk about founder members bring it up. Oh, I'm starting a brand like Zach Stuck. And it's a thing that a lot of people chat about. So when and why should they ever do that? And Brad, you have this as well. So I'd be curious to your take.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had the intention all along to do this. So when I started Homestead, I was like, hey, I want to do the agency thing, and then I want to go into brands. Because if I go way back, I actually started a brand when I was 19 in college and did like a Kickstarter and all that fun stuff for it. And I always loved being on the brand side. So I always knew I wanted to get back there at some point. So like that's the like forward answer. But I think a lot of people, are in this mode of like, okay, agency game is a grind. Maybe I want to try the other side. I think that it really comes down to like your time and energy and where you're getting energy from. If you're getting energy from solving problems in businesses versus like agency problems, like people and staffing and leading and teaching people things, if you get a lot of energy from like teaching and stuff like that, I'd say keep running your agency. Like you're probably doing just fine and you should stick to that and keep focused on that. But if you are in this quest of like, I want to go learn something new that I know nothing about, which is like product and ops and finance, really like really going deep into all those things, I think that's a great opportunity to do it. I think that the biggest thing is it's a time suck, where I've tried to run a bunch of different businesses at the same time, and it's really hard to do a lot of things at once. So I think you just have to be cognizant of how much time it's going to eat up. Um, and I also think like the other thing is just like financially how much you're willing to like take a bet on. So the first brand that we started with, like I dumped 150K cash into. It was a lot of cash and I shouldn't have done that. Should have started way smaller. Should have launched a brand from scratch. But yeah, I think that you kind of have to take those things into consideration. And if you're like debating it and you're like, hey, I've got 50 grand to spare and I'm ready to take the risk, and I feel like the team that I have in place at the agency allows me to step away for 10, 15 hours a week to go kind of get this thing rolling, I say do it, then give it a shot. But I mean, definitely prepare to torch that entire 50K, especially on the first one. Like we are on technically brand number 6 right now in the portfolio. A few of the first ones didn't like pan out to be massive. I mean, we got lucky. Hollow's been like chipping away and a little bit slower growth out of the gate. But yeah, I mean, I think you just have to be prepared to on time side and financially and what you're really willing to risk on that front.
Yeah, I think just to add on the financial piece of it, I don't have an opinion one way or another on what any individual person should do. I think you covered that really well. I think agency people think that running a brand is easier than it is because they get to do the marketing stuff. And I'm not saying this was Jess that said this, and I don't think Jess is extremely smart, so I don't. This is not a knock on him directly. If you haven't been involved in P&L conversations and ops conversations with clients and helping like guide some of that decision making, you're going to get slapped in the face the first time you have to do that. Not that you're not capable of doing it, but I think people are in for a little bit of a rude awakening with that. And then the cash flow consideration. It's extremely different. It is just a fundamentally different business model from cash position. An agency, assuming you bill up front or with even reasonable 30-day terms, like you have way more cash in an agency business than you probably ever will, or for several years in an e-com business. So I think that just be.
I mean, I think just to be like very blunt, we got Homestead to $1 million in annual revenue, and I didn't know how to read a P&L at all, like zero. Like that's not possible with the D2C brand. You need to know exactly where all your cash is and what you're losing money on and what you're spending it on, right? It's just much easier to do in an agency space where it's like, here's how much money I have in my checking account and how much money is coming in based on what we just sent out QuickBooks invoices. I usually get paid within X amount of period or a few days late. Like, let's go hire another person and keep pushing up. So, I mean, again, that's like me saying how dumb I was when I started the agency, but like, it's much harder to do that properly, like Brad said, on the brand side.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's also two things. One is like, what do you want to do? Is that actually something you want to do? Is it because you want to have a brand because it's cool to have a brand, or is this actually something you want to do because you think it's interesting and it's going to add something unique to the world? That's a big difference, and it's going to show in the way that you go through it and the way that you're working late at night for it. If you really are like, this is a great product and I believe in this and I like this, versus I want to launch this because it's a good idea. The other thing that I would say is, going through and allocating, like if you want to just do it from an agency to say, hey, I want to have a brand, I want to get it going, then like have a plan for how you will market it and how it will be part of the journey for you getting more leads in your agency. That's a lot of people's like, it's like, oh, I'm starting this brand, but then it's like, well, what are you going to do with it? It's like, well, we're not sure. We're getting it off the ground. It's like from day one, you should be posting about it, right? That's going to be a transparent thing that people identify with, because brand owners that could be your potential customers are there or have been there. And that's going to be a way that you can connect with them right away. There was a bunch of questions that came in about basically like scaling and how you scale. And we've covered this in the last episode of like, how do you go through and scale, and a little bit of the playbook. It's a hot playbook, honestly. And if you haven't listened to the episode, go back and listen to it. Yeah, so it's episode 8. We're checking out. Forrest asked how to scale from 0 to 10K, 10K to 100K. I will ask what's needed to go from 50K in spend to 100K a day in spend. And then, Garrett asked, Matt asked, I would love to hear campaign structures you're using for scaling and testing and how it goes. And we've talked about this, obviously a bunch. I would say predominantly it comes down to creative and your systems for getting creative into your workflow, and not just creative, but personas as well, and unlocking new personas and unlocking offer testing and landing page and, CRO testing. Other things you guys want to say about scaling from one level to another? A lot of folks seem to be interested in sort of like the 1K to 5K or the 50 to 100. And I don't know that actually they're that different.
Yeah, I think the 0 to 1 is pretty different than some of the scaling up stuff. I think at the 0 to 1, you're just trying to find anything that works that you can lean into. So generally what that looks like is going wide. I think Zach has laid this out pretty nicely. I think in episode 8, when we talked about kind of this playbook, generally speaking, and in other podcasts I know he's been on, kind of like laying out, go wide with the messaging, use statics because it's easier to crank statics out. You can be, it focuses you to be clearer and more concise with the messaging that you're looking for. So I think getting from 0 to something is just trying to go wide with what can have the potential to work. And then once you have any evidence of success in any of those things, it's like, in my opinion, it's kind of obsessively focusing on whatever that one thing is. So if it's a specific persona, how can you get more out of that? And what we talked about in that episode, just to give you a quick highlight, is you kind of take that, you diversify the messaging. Like how can that same kind of thing be used across similar types of messaging for the same persona, but maybe slightly different angles of it? How can you take the static, turn it into a video? That's kind of how to expand that and get the creative flywheel rolling around that, whatever that is that's working. Match it up with a landing page that is consistent with the message. Is there anything you could do with the offer that compounds it further? Can you go into the whitelisting route? Like there's a bunch of different steps that you can take, but I think 0 to 1 is starting wide. Zach, maybe you have some opinions on that as well, but I think it'd be interesting for you to talk about the
scale part of it.
5 to 10 to 10 to 100 or wherever you want.
Yeah. I mean, like we just this last week, we ran into some inventory stuff back half of June, and then finally got in a better spot. And we're prepping hollows for 4th of July sales. So, I mean, when we were looking at the thirds, this was the 4th was on Friday. So this was Thursday. And Meta, we were spending 32K a day on that day, on the 4th, or on the 3rd, sorry. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 campaigns running in our ad account. And of those, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 that were just focused on sale campaigns that were basically sale creatives. And everything else was evergreen. We break out the campaign by partner whitelisting. We break it out by product. Like for us, we might break out like a compression sock versus like a trade sock or whatever. And then we have our creative testing campaign. All of those, for the most part, are ABOs that are kind of like our evergreen campaigns. And then when it's time to scale, then we'll roll out like a CBO. Right now, we're running lowest cost for the most part, almost entirely across our ad account. We had some issues getting cost controls to spend at the rates that we wanted to, but the point that I'm trying to make here is cool. We have 10 campaigns on Thursday, spending 32 grand in Meta. On Sunday, the 6th, we spent 76 grand in Meta, and we killed one of those campaigns off. So we literally had the same exact campaigns running, and all we did was push budget up. So I think like in theory, what Andrew said is very right, which is you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to see the performance that indicates that your new customer ROAS is so strong on a daily basis that even like in the morning, it's like, oh my gosh, our new customer ROAS is above a 2 or above a 3. Like we can definitely push here. And that just allows you to like push into more spend. I mean, I think even for Apple Oven, so we're running Apple Oven right now. We were at like 5 grand a day. Sale period comes around. We double budget from 5 to 10. Nothing complicated. We have one campaign in there, 20 assets running. They're the best video, basically Reels ads from Facebook and Meta ads. Copy them over to that. One campaign, let it rip, doubled it from 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20 over the course of 4 days. Again, it's like not that complicated to do. It's more just about having the right tools in place that the performance is so strong that then you can push it. It's really nothing more complicated than that from what I'm seeing. So it's not like we're doing some crazy campaign structure. It's not like we're doing anything wild there. It's your normal standard playbook. Creative testing in an ABO or in a CBO, let the best ads and the best ad sets pull up the spend. And that's really it. So I think like a lot of people overcomplicate it. And I think a lot of it comes down to, do you have really good ads? Do you have a really good offer? Have you proven out landing pages? And then have you killed off landing pages that are maybe pulling down your average ROAS? Because like that was something going into the sale. We had like 8 landing pages running. We cut it down to 3. So like these are the top 3. Why would we even spend, even if we want to test something different during the sale period? Get rid of the nuance, get rid of like the variables, and just put all your chips in at once. So to me, that's how we think about it. Usually that's how we scale. Even over like a Black Friday period, I remember like we had maybe 10 campaigns going into the day. Some of those budgets we would just like X and just be like, okay, we're ready to spend. Let's see what happens. It wasn't anything more complicated than that. So to me, it's more about having those right first variables before you can actually hit the gas than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, we use the Frankenstein method, which is, no, I'm just kidding. You bring things back from,
where are we going here?
You bring things back from the dead. It's 700 ad sets. They're and they're all $1 different. And then we use the bolt method.
Right. Yeah. The double up, triple up method that people joke about on Twitter is real. Like, that's the reality of it. If things are working, you can literally double budgets and things ride out. It's totally fine. So I mean, that's not that exciting of an answer, but that's the truth of what we literally just did this last week. So
yeah. I mean, to dig into the specifics of the campaign structure question from Matt, like Facebook actually has like some decent Meta, Facebook, whatever, has some like recommendations around this. And that Yoni on Twitter has called this out. Is like, you should have a specific business case for splitting out into new campaigns, just to like that. And that's how we look at it, the lens that we look at it through. So what that looks like in practice is, if you, let's simplify it and say you're a single SKU brand, you should probably have one campaign for a very long time until you start to introduce like more offers. We were talking like you should be spending several $1,000s a day before I think you need to be branching off into new campaigns and even ad sets, in my opinion. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of creative testing ad sets. I think they're okay, but I think at the end of the day, like, you can keep it very simple, and you start to add when you have a business case to do so, which is you need to hold the campaign to a specific target because it have different margins, or it's a different product, or it's a limited time sale thing where, again, kind of a margin conversation, but have a specific business case for splitting it out, in my opinion.
Yep. One thing I was curious, you guys look like I do too, about within, and this is a scaling question, is like, as people are scaling, and we got this is from Garrett, going through the bottlenecks that people face. We all look at a lot of ad accounts and where the bottlenecks are, and what you see looking at all these accounts of like, why can't we scale? I'll just go answer my own question first. This is classic Andrew Foxwell, but which is like, the bottleneck generally that I see is that they keep doing the same thing. And there hasn't been any innovation in the things that we've just aforementioned. So it's like, there's, over and over, not trying anything new, hasn't been any new products, has driven to the same landing page, it's like, why can't we keep turning up the budget? It's like, well, it goes back to what I taught in the scaling course that, you guys took, and Zach, the Homestead, all your employees tell me that they go through. It's just like the horizontal scaling method, which is like, you can't just take one thing, turn it up. You have to have, it covers a broad base of who you're talking to, why, reasoning, creative, and then, go that way. I don't know. What other like common bottlenecks do you guys see from a scaling standpoint?
Yeah, I have a specific example of mine from a client recently. Sometimes it manifests itself in different ways. And I think if you go back to, not to like keep plugging a previous episode, but like the point of that episode where we talked about the playbook was to give you a bunch of different options for things you can go change, because it could be several of them. It could be one of them. So I think you have to pick one and kind of commit to doing that. So let me go into a specific example. We had a client who basically had like one winning ad. Like, they had just kind of kicked off running ads, found our video, doing really well. But we run into a point where we increase budget and efficiency just drops, and there's no marginal benefit of increasing the budget. And at that point, it seemed to be the whole was that we needed some additional creative, right? Like, we have one video that's working. If you look in your ad account right now and you are being carried by one video or one static or one piece of creative, there's likely some potential that you have the ability to diversify away from that. At $1,000 to $2,000, $3,000 a day, you can get away with one or two. But if you want to get higher than that, you need a lot more that's making up a 10+% of your spend than just one ad. So for them, it was, okay, what's the messaging that's working? For them, it was speaking to a specific persona about the challenges that they face, which is a very blanket way of saying, like, I'll just use a random example that's not them. Old men with really bad eyesight, like, they needed a solution for this thing. So we dug into that a little bit more with launching some review. We took reviews, we turned them into like video versions of the review, where it's like an AI voiceover reading the review. Cool. Now we've got another additional winner. Now we have two ads making up 40 or 80% of the budget, and the rest of the 20% made up by the rest of the ad account. And we once again ran into this issue of, we increased the budget. All that happens is now ROAS degrades. We don't actually get a marginal win in revenue. The next thing that we did was, how do we make a landing page that is cohesive with the messaging of just made a 5 reasons why landing page that pretty much exactly mimicked the flow of the couple top ads, and that unlocked an additional 40% of spend. So I think like, you'll know that it's happening because you can't push spend anymore without a massive degradation in ROAS, or you just get nothing additional, and you just go, I think you can kind of go chip away I'm not a big fan of like using benchmarks and ad accounts for those things because I think they can be really easily rinsed out. But anyways.
Yeah, I have really no notes. I think Brad nailed that. I think it's go back to that episode, listen to it. We gave like whatever, 7 different things that could be the issue, and just pick one a week and try it and see if that can unlock it. Cause yeah, I mean, it's usually offer. Like if I'm being like super straight up, it's like if you could change the offer and the ad account could turn around overnight, and you could push up more scale because now consumers are realizing, oh, this is easier to understand, or it's easier to unlock, or whatever that might be. So if I had to pick one thing, that's usually the biggest thing that has the most leverage.
We got multiple questions about how you use debt to grow and how do you advise brands to think about this?
Yeah, I mean, for Hollow specifically, we've used a lot of debt to get to where we're at now. I mean, we're a bootstrap business. To go from 1 to 8 to 21 to whatever we'll do this year, 40 something, hopefully. Yeah, it just takes a lot of money to buy a lot of socks to sell them, right? So I think usually brands are starting out, they're looking at like Shopify Capital because it's very easy and accessible. There's a bunch of other lenders, which, Wayflyer is like our lender of choice. They've worked with us a lot. There's great ones, Settle. There's a handful of them that are awesome, but Wayflyer's been the one that's been kind of there to support us and always been there to like be there when things get a little tough, even at some points. So for us, with our kind of cash conversion cycle for that business specifically, we buy all of our raw materials up front, which is pretty rare. Sometimes you can buy finished good material from your manufacturer. Because we're making socks out of alpaca, it's just very unique. And none of the manufacturers in the US were willing to take that big of a bet on buying millions of dollars of this alpaca yarn that they were like, I don't even know what this is. We had to find a way to do it. And so debt was really our option. Usually how that works is you have to get to a certain size and scale out of the gate to kind of prove that you can produce profit. So for us, it was like $1.5 million. Our first year, I think we did like 200, 300K to the bottom line. And at that rate, we were basically saying, hey, we can do this at more scale. We're profitable in our first real year here. We just need more dollars to go buy more product to keep growing. And I'll be like very honest, like it was definitely much easier in years past to get debt as consumer in general was just healthier. The market was healthier, things like that. A lot of these lenders were much more easy to just hand out dollars to say, yeah, go grow your business. Now it's very profit driven. You cannot not be profitable and go ask for debt. You have to be profitable and have a path of continued profitability. For us, I mean, it was in the beginning, it's kind of a little bit of Shopify Capital, a little bit of money from Wayflyer, using credit cards to try and like work our way through, pushing back payments on fulfillment costs or ad spend or whatever. But I mean, for us, we absolutely needed it to grow to where we're at now. I mean, we just couldn't have done it. If we tried to just bootstrap our way, we'd probably be, and maybe 8 million this year versus, 2.5, 3 years ago. And I mean, the truth of it is it's risk tolerance too. I naturally have like pretty high risk tolerance and pretty high conviction in myself. Brad is, I think Brad and Andrew can definitely confirm that, but that's where a lot of it comes. Like you have to know where you're going to allocate those dollars and how you're going to pay those people back. Otherwise, you risk losing the business. I definitely wouldn't be where we are either without like our head of finance, Jacob, who's just been an absolute savage at this stuff, building incredible cash flow forecasts, incredible like modeling, to help these lenders understand how we think about allocating their dollars and obviously returning that capital back to them. So
yeah, I think risk tolerance is a huge part of it. I totally agree. Brad, any notes on that?
Hey, this is Andrew Foxwell, and I'll tell you one platform I'm testing now is Roku. One thing I love about Roku is that it's the #1 TV streaming platform, accounting for 47% of all streaming time in the US as of 2024 and reaches 125 million households from the Roku home screen each day. It integrates with Shopify, which is pretty cool. You can literally have someone shop on their TV using Roku with Shopify. The targeting's on point. You can use custom audiences, has, pretty legit demographic drill downs. You can have a pixel as well to track success. And if you spend $1,000 testing it, they give you $1,000 of credit using code Foxwell. It works. Like one D2C brand that I'm aware of increased conversions by 25% using repurposed social video ads, which is pretty cool. And another D2C brand saw a 3.3 time ROAS from Roku using Triple M to prove it. If you're not doing anything else, you can also just remarket to people on your list using the custom audiences feature, taking pre-existing social content and putting it right on Roku and running it to make sure that you're in front of as many people as you can be, or as many of those customers as you can be in Q4 and Q3. So hopefully you will give it a shot. If you're interested, go to foxwelldigital.com/Roku and go ahead and click to get started. So we have some questions that came in about like starting out. What would you do? So I'll ask you, Brad, right away. This is from Sean G. Sean G. If you were launching a new D2C brand from scratch, would you choose a product with tight seasonality windows with high first order value but weaker LTV, or B, an evergreen product with lower first order value but stronger LTV over 1 to 2 years? Curious what you think is trade-offs. I obviously have my answer, but Brad, go.
Yeah, I mean, I lean towards the better LTV just because you'll have more consistent cash flow throughout the year. Like at the end of the day, though, like both have. I think Alex Hormozy says this, like all businesses have shit or something. So like they all have it. Like your acquisition costs are probably going to be tougher on the evergreen products because you're competing with a bunch of people throughout the entire year who probably have something similar with a tight. It's hard without like a specific product in mind, but a product with tight seasonality window, high first order value, meaning like what is high? You know, we work with clients who have a $5,000 first time AOV, and like, yeah, that's great. But you know how much you have to spend in order to get that customer? It's like you're spending $2,000 to know if an ad's going to work. Whereas like a $40 AOV, you can spend the same and you're out of learning and ripping really fast. So I would lean towards the lower first order value if it's kind of something that you're just getting used to, unless you have a really compelling, unique advantage for the higher AOV product, because it's probably more competitive, but you can learn substantially faster. And I think the cash flow will probably be better as a result of that. Not to get like super fluffy woo for a second, but like, I think there's important considerations for like having your like benchmarks for what is a good business, high margin, high LTV, whatever, depending on the category. But it also helps to like really enjoy the category or be somewhat involved in the category. So you have some kind of unique advantage in that way of like how to talk to people, which is ironic coming from an agency where we work with the brands across a bunch of different things. But yeah, that's where my gut says is the latter of those two.
You know what I'm doing is I'm going to start a box subscription company. I don't know if you guys have heard of these, but I'm bringing it back from 2010 when they were hot.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be incredible. It's going to be a subscription brand, curated goods.
Goods that you throw away after 3 months, and
it's going to be incredible.
Your 90-day LTV is great, but after that, cooked.
That's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we have brands now kind of that fit both of these categories. And if I'm going to do it again in the future, it's definitely going to be number B. Like, it's going to be the higher LTV subscription heavy business for the reason that you can like stack wins, right? I mean, like a lot of these brands that are one-time purchase, getting someone back, 30% of people back even in the first year is like a good accomplishment, let alone can you get 50, 60% of people to buy again the next month with a subscription business, like pretty likely to do that. So yeah, I think that's the move. I think you just have to take into consideration the cash flow of that model, which is you're likely going to lose money on the first purchase and acquiring that customer. Maybe not at a very small scale. You can be profitable on first customer acquisition of a low AOV, high LTV product, but with more scale, that's definitely going to get inverted from any brand that we've ever worked with or own now in that ecosystem. So you just have to kind of build that into your cash flow model of losing money on the front end and banking on the LTV. So yeah, that's definitely the move though, if I had to choose.
So let's get to like a market research kind of question about what percentage of revenue should be spent on total marketing costs at different revenue sizes. What is a good profitability percentage goal at different stages? We've talked about this on another podcast, I know, but this would be, marketing spend includes marketing salaries, ad spend, subscriptions, free product, agency fees, etc. What do you guys think about this? Obviously looking at a lot of different brands.
Do you want me to go first, Brad? I can go first. Okay, let's just talk about $1 million a year business. Then we can go 10 and then we can go like 50, right? So, $1 million a year business, I would think you're going to spend 400 grand on marketing. I think you're going to probably put 300 grand, so 30% to cost of goods / cost of delivery, maybe even 40%, so 400K to that. And you're maybe going to put 10% to the bottom line. And that doesn't include like salaries, stuff like that. $1 million a year business is really, really hard in e-com. It's just hard to make that work unless you're like a solopreneur or you have like a couple, maybe a freelancer or two. At that scale, it's just very hard. It sounds like, $1 million, it sounds great, but it really, in theory, it's very hard to back out once you start to factor everything else in. I would imagine at that rate, you're probably going to spend, 40% of your revenue. That number can probably stay fairly consistent even at 10 million a year. If you're calling it marketing salaries, marketing budget, influencer, content, creative, all that stuff all included. I think like the standard that we like to see in our clients and even like with our own brands is like running at like a 3 MER. So call it like somewhere in like the 30 to 35% range that kind of fluctuates on a monthly basis is what you're spending on ad dollars. And then ideally you're in the 10% operating expenses range. Like that's 10% of revenue is kind of the sweet spot of where you want to be. So it's 40%, and then cost of delivery probably still landing around 40% to get the product to the customer's door. So in a sweet spot at 10 million a year, you're probably 15% net profit would be a great target to shoot for. 10 to 20 is probably like where we see a lot of brands sitting. So 1 to 2 million of EBIT on 10 million of revenue would be a great business. And then you push it up to 50 million. It all depends on like if there's retail distribution or not. That'll definitely factor into like your margin at that point. Assuming you're all D2C, Shopify, Amazon, even if you're like 70-30 split, 70 shop, 30 Amazon, I mean, you're probably running still at like a 3 MER at the end of the day. You're probably still spending 30% of your budget on advertising, especially if you're trying to grow at a decent clip. So yeah, I don't think that really changes a ton. I think it more depends on like how you're optimizing your operating expenses and not trying to scale those up. Like if you can be below 10% OpEx at 50 million a year, you're doing great. And if you're also spending less than 30% of your revenue on advertising at 50 million a year, you're probably doing really great too. So I would say that's kind of the baseline is kind of this like 10% OpEx, 30% to cost of ads. That's 40%. You're probably 40% cost of delivery, meaning like the cost of the COGS of your product landing in the US, pick, pack, ship fees at the customer's door. Maybe there's duties involved depending on if you're shipping international. That's where your like 10 to 20% net profit kind of sits. Anything below 10%, you're like too tight on cash flow. Like you're not producing enough profit to even like cover cost of interest, things like that below 10%. And then anything above 20%, you're likely not pushing enough growth unless your goal is like just kind of stabilize and just be really profitable. But for most brands that are trying to grow at 50 to 100% year over year, that's usually what we see.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a good job of going through the true cost. I think there's an idea that a lot of people feel like that number is different. I mean, and let's just say that the one that we see often, right, which is the 1 to 10 million or the 2 to 10 million, right, which is I think the most common one we see or are exposed to, which is that there's going to be more money there at the end of the day. And the reality is this is not the case today, especially if you're going to try to be a high growth brand. So
I think the other thing that I'll just like hit on, which I think is an interesting point, and Brad might have some notes here, is like how much money you're actually taking home as the business owner at that rate. Okay, so 40% goes to taxes. So there's 400K, boom, gone. Then we have investing money back in, paying for interest. Okay, that comes out. I mean, you're probably still only paying yourself like low 6 figures, if that, so it's crazy how much you really have to do in profit in e-com for it to really kick out. And this is where like a lot of people talk about the agency model. Agency model is great. It's very high cash flow, much easier to take cash out of the business because you don't need to reinvest it back in to buy more things that often. You can definitely grow, your team and people at a steadier clip, at a steadier pace. But yeah, when it comes to e-com, like that's probably the biggest misnomer is people are like, oh, wow, they're doing 20 million a year in revenue and they're doing 2 million or 3 million in profit. Like that owner must be killing it. He's got to have Ferraris and all sorts of crazy shit. That owner's at 20 million a year business doing 3 million in profit is probably making 300K max, like max, which is kind of a crazy concept to think of.
Yeah.
Which is still
depends
great
on where you,
by all
depends
means,
on where you live. You might be balling it up in Appleton, Wisconsin.
In Appleton, Wisconsin, you can kill it at 300K.
300K?
In LA or in Foxwell's new home
in Santa Barbara. That's not going to go very far.
You're not getting guac on your Chipotle if you're in Santa Barbara.
You are not. That is not going to work.
But yeah, anyways, I just think that's an interesting and important thing to call out too on that.
Yeah, just one small side note to add is like I think for a while people would be shocked to hear that you're spending 40%, upwards of 40%, some more in some cases of your revenue on marketing. I think people are really shocked by that, and I think that's just like somewhat the reality, unless you have a really unique, you have strong LTV, you have some kind of like organic moat. Like there's a lot of things that could factor into that, but it's kind of the kind of the barrier to entry at this point. get used to it.
And that's the thing. I think that also that number has changed significantly. Okay. Like, it used to be a different ball game. And I think that's the reality of today. And so that's why it's important, I think, to talk about.
A 4x ROAS back in 2019 was a thing. It was just like, oh yeah, we're ripping it. We're at 4. Cool. Sounds good. I'm not even that excited. 6, 7, now I get excited. Now it's seeing those numbers of 4 MER, like 25% ad spend of your revenue is like, wow, they're killing it.
Yeah. I know we have an episode where we like pick fights with people, or not an episode, but there's like a segment at the end. So I'm going to pick a fight really quick.
Yeah.
Yes, beefs. I'm going to pull beefs ahead a little bit. If you see somebody post a screenshot on Twitter and they are running meta ads at higher than a 10x, they are full of shit or they're not spending enough money. Like full stop. There's basically zero argument against it. You should question that. And if it's substantially higher than a 10x, they are lying. Pure, like flat out, they're lying. So just going to throw that out there.
That's my lead magnet for the founders membership is a 10x screenshot. So
50x,
yeah,
man. Why stop there?
Yeah. I remember back in the days when I ran all the paid media for Pure Vita bracelets, and I remember they would get like 10x. It was like constantly, right? And I remember there was a week period that they never responded to me with words. It was only fire emojis, and that's all it was back in the 10x days. So
yeah.
One person asked a question about financial realities of growing and the realities of growing a business super fast versus sort of bootstrapping it. And I think there's another person that has kind of a related question, which makes me think about what are the realities of running a business as a brand owner or as an agency owner, really, but as a brand owner, since this podcast is for 7 to 8 figure brand owners, primarily, that isn't talked about. Like, what are the realities of this that people just don't talk about or get into? And when you're in person with people, Zach, or you're in person with people, Brad, or like you're having an honest conversation that you're talking about with them, what are the realities of this that you guys see that feel like aren't discussed ever?
I think a lot of entrepreneurs are pretty broke until they have an exit. I think is like one of the biggest things that I've had a lot of conversations about with people, no matter whatever category they're in, specifically brand owners, though. They're not killing it until they sell a business, usually, for the most part, especially if your business is under 10 million a year in revenue. It's really hard to like really put a lot of dollars in your own bank account. So that's one thing. The second thing is like people see all these brands that raise VC money and they're like, man, the owner must be making millions a year. Usually they have a board, and usually that board is like, nope, you have a salary and it's capped. And they don't like seeing the owners taking wild distributions out of those businesses. So I think that's another thing that a lot of people have like a misnomer about, of like, hey, they raised all this VC money. This owner must be making so much money. Not always true. I've definitely learned that by having conversations with brands that are VC backed, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna set salary. I actually like make more money on the side freelancing or some shit. But those are kind of two unique things. Brad, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we talked about it earlier. It's like just the cash flow considerations. Like you don't just get to pull out a bunch of money whenever you want in a lot of circumstances until you start to hit those thresholds that you mentioned. I say this with a lot of love for everybody that does this, as somebody who's literally on a podcast right now. But like, there's a reason a lot of brand people do podcasts. Like their knowledge is extremely valuable, and like if they can get sponsorships, great. Like there's no cost associated with that other than their time. And if they have the excess time, like cool, it's great to get a nice paycheck from a sponsorship thing, knowing that like the brand, whether for growth reasons or because it's not big enough yet, it's like you just can't pull cash out. And again, like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I have no shill sass all you want. Like we'll probably be doing it. So like I have no concerns about it. It's just like there's a reason that it happens at the scale that it does. And I don't think it's good or bad. It just is.
Yeah. No, it's rare to see. I mean, like I think the standard from what I've heard is like at most people are pulling like 20% distributions of like monthly net profit. If you got multiple, so here's another thing. If you got multiple co-founders, you really got to break that number down, right? I think a lot of people don't think about that. They're like, oh, I'm going to start this business. We've got like 4 awesome co-founders with me. It's like, you realize that how much profit you're going to have to do in a month to take a meaningful distribution is really going to get pretty small, especially with more cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, are you going to be driving that used Prius in 10 years if you're going to do this? Yeah, I think a lot of it too is obviously I think about this stuff a lot from a people angle because that's where I have a lot of. I think a lot of people that have a business that are in that phase is they're lonely. They just don't have a lot of people to talk to that they can be really real with. I think that's one. And I also think that there's a degree to which momentum keeps them away from what they actually want to do. So the momentum is leading them in a direction, and they don't take the time to assess and like look at their life and be like, is this what I want to be doing right now? And if it is, I need to be innovating on the product, or I need to be changing the way that we're thinking about the operation of this, right? And they just kind of like keep it going, and the momentum adds. And then usually more workload gets added, and then they find themselves really burnt out and upset. And then they're just upset for a long period of time and feel like they don't have control. So I think that's a big one that you have to go through when you're always thinking about that.
That I think is just like a good call out is Roman Khan, who runs like a holdco, absolute G, killing it. He shared with me that like one big thing that he's trying to do now is trying to find a way to take a bigger percentage distribution of his EBITDA. He's like, I think a lot of business owners just go so full bore into like, got to reinvest that they never take the time to say, what if this business falls apart one day and I'm not taking enough money out of the company? So I think like slowing down growth to focus on profitability and figure out how you can take more money out to actually like put some money aside. I think a lot of brand owners get, like you said, kind of get stuck in that hamster wheel of like, got to keep doing, that they don't really actually slow down and say, oh, I actually could take more out if I was meaningful with the dollars in the business a little bit more. If I spent a little bit less money on software, a little bit less money over here, maybe I hired offshore instead of domestic for my next 3 hires, I could actually end up taking a little bit more money out of the business. I think a lot of brand owners need to like pause, look at their cash flow P&L and try to do that. Cause yeah, it's hard and not every brand gets an exit. Right. So if everyone's just waiting for that one day, I think it can be pretty brutal. So I just thought it was like good advice.
Andrew Ferris, like within the last week, probably a couple weeks when this comes out, and it's great. Like he talked about some of those things exactly and somewhat specifically about how he's doing it. So you should just check that out. It's great.
Sweet. Why don't we do that?
All right. And final question is, what's the biggest load of shit that you hear in D2C that you disagree with or agree with, that you agree with that shit? What do you guys think?
I already started my beefs. Like so maybe I should let you guys answer the beefs question this time around.
You go. Do you have one, Brad? Do you have one? Go for it.
No, I mean, I just think like one of the questions that was in here from, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Danavir, but like he kind of said this, like, what do you see on Twitter that you like is kind of full of shit? It's like a lot of it. It's just like a lot of it. Like a lot of people are trying to build a following on Twitter, and they say things that are not like totally validated. So you just need to be cautious. Like I say that knowing full well that we're 3 dudes on a podcast, just like sharing what works for us within, whatever. So I think it just, be somewhat skeptical. I think it's cool to get ideas from people, but you can't possibly test everything at all the time. So just, maybe just be a little bit more skeptical probably.
Yeah. I think that
I think that's true.
One of the bigger things lately is like, obviously we focus so much on Meta. And it's like, you can only scale your business on Meta. Talked to a brand person the other day, and they're doing volume, like call it, what is this? Tens of millions a month in revenue. And they spend little to nothing on Meta. So it's like, you can still have other playbooks that can work. I mean, these guys do crazy affiliate stuff. They do a ton of stuff with TikTok Shop, driving traffic over to Amazon. I mean, there's definitely no one size fits all playbook that everyone has to follow. And if someone says like, this is how you grow a brand, like just know there's going to be a bunch of other ways that you probably can go about it. I also think like you also just have to tap into what you're good at. If you're good at ads, cool, then build your business off of Facebook. Like that's what we've done. I've been running Facebook ads for a long time. So that's what we know best. We don't do anything on TikTok right now for any of our brands, but there's people that are putting up numbers doing that stuff too. So I think like one size fits all, like takes, that's the classic, like
not smart.
Yeah. So that's generally, I mean, that's kind of soft, but that's the one thing I can get annoyed by.
That's true. I mean, I think that's true. To me, I would say mine is a little bit related to what you guys have both said, which is, I think the people that are really successful that I learned from, and, I've been doing this work in D2C ecom for like, since it was invented. So I'm old now. I just turned 40. So like the people that I take inspiration from, not you guys, of course, but other people, they are putting one foot in front of the other and like building brick by brick. And that they have this mentality where they're planning the work and they're working the plan. And I know that sounds like really, out there, but there's so many people that pop up that they're, trying to get leads and they're blowing things up and they're putting out this and that and whatever. And it's like, there are exceptions to this, but most of the time they're a flash in the pan and they're not the people that are out there consistently doing the work. And the other thing is, all of these people that we all know that are well known in our industry, including us, there are like multiple people under them that are also, or with them, that are also doing the work and that are really smart and potentially smarter than them and or than us. Like my team, right? Like they are smarter than me. And I love that about them. Like they put in incredible work. They're great people and they're doing it consistently. And that's what makes us great. We're just stacking wins, one thing after another. This is the mission. And I think that's there's a lot to be said for that. And I think if you read through, successful businesses over time, everybody loves a very unsexy business. And I think that there's so much focus in ours on sexy businesses, but it's like, that's not true. There's a lot of these people that are out here just one thing at a time. And I think that is the people that you're always trying to find, right? That are like digging in. And you don't need to be a person. You can't be a person that's out there giving advice and giving thoughts if you aren't hearing from people 70% of the time and listening 70% of the time. And that's something that I've certainly learned as well.
Yeah, I think there's,
as time's gone on.
Totally. One other thing, and I'm just now kind of ranting about the.
Maybe we should start fights.
The last,
from beefs to fight.
The last thing I'll have to say is that when things are good, all the big dogs are talking, right? When things are hard, they go away. And not calling myself a big dog by any means by saying this, but like we went through a really rough period last spring for Hollow. It was brutal. Like I thought maybe we would lose the business even. It was pretty scary. We just over-indexed. We had a super weather was completely set off like our sales and our velocity of what we were planning to sell and what we ordered versus what we didn't order of inventory. It was definitely scary. But I just got off of Twitter for 3 months because I'm like, I can't be out here talking about things being good when things are not good. And I think when there's people that are always posting about things are good all the time, you can usually, call bullshit because it's not the truth. So that's just my other point is give people kudos that share the L's also, versus just always out there flexing, which I do sometimes because it's, it's fun and it's, I love to kind of hype the people up a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely a real thing though, is, it doesn't always have to be.
That's what's always so funny is because everybody knows you as Zach from X, but in real life you're actually an incredibly good friend and a sweet person. You're not out here flexing like crazy. Even though when we had dinner last week, I did notice that your license plate says D2C, which is pretty sick. So
yeah, I mean, whatever.
That's cool.
There's 3 of us in Wisconsin that do this, so you gotta let the people know.
Gentlemen, good to be with you. As always, you can feel free to email me, Andrew@foxwelldigital.com, or DM the guys and they may look at their direct messages. But if you actually want somebody to read it, send it to me. I'm happy to look at it and hear from you. And please rate, review, share this with friends. We really appreciate everything you guys do by listening, and keep questions coming. Everyone have a good rest of your day.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
See you.
This episode is brought to you by Homestead's email and SMS service. Honestly, we've done an episode with Jacob from Homestead. He's the man, and he's got to be probably one of the smartest email and retention operators on the agency side, hands down. I look forward to seeing the tweets that he puts out basically every single month with a recap of the designs. And as amazing as the designs themselves are, it's the actual tactical behind the scenes work where he just knows what he's doing. And the team at Homestead really know what they're doing on email and SMS. Probably, if not the number one, very close to competing for number one retention agency in the DTC space. So just killing it.
Yeah, absolutely agree. If you are looking at your emails and you're like, these are terrible, and you can optimize the flows and you can do SMS better, you got to look at the Homestead team. So check them out, reach out, and they can definitely help make your entire email and retention and SMS program so much better. And I'm not just saying that
We've all seen the work. I actually had a member who sat down with Jacob at the founder meetup that we had, and he came over to me and said, I just talked to him for 10 minutes, and literally he's revolutionized my entire email department. So agencies are modeling themselves off of what Jacob is giving them for advice. So anyway, onwards to hopefully working with them.